Hi, and welcome to this reading. Today's reading is a little different from the readings that I've done before, although I'm pulling through some of the tools that I use in previous readings. This is more of a research reading, and as we are all on a spiritual journey for the next 18 months while the North Node is in Pisces, I think it's really important to go looking for yourself, and I've been doing this, but also to share the ways that you connect with your spirituality and with the spiritual messages that you have been receiving. So today I'm looking at contextually the synchronicities between the birth of Australia, its connection with England and the synchronicities that lie within that, and also the synchronicities that lie within the biblical text in the Bible. Now, I have pulled through, now, excuse my stomach, I am fasting. Fasting is a number 777. If you look up in Strong's Concordance and put in 777, the 777th word in biblical text is fasting. That might be of spiritual significance for you at the time you are watching this reading. Something that spiritually I am tapping into. Now I just have come back to sit down to start this reading, and as I do, my dog is actually trying to get out the dog door, but I'm keeping him inside. There was a lizard, a big lizard in our garden, probably about this long, and he wouldn't attack it, but he was barking at it. There was kind of a Mexican standoff going on, and he's trying to get back outside. The spiritual significance of things that happen with animals are really, really important. That lizard, native to my garden, ancestrally has probably been here for centuries. And here is this beautifully cute, cream-coloured labradoodle who is marking territory in a garden that he was introduced to. He wasn't born here. He was born on the other side of the city. Interesting. So as I said, this reading is essentially just letting you into the research that I have been doing in regards to the synchronicities between the storylines of the nation, the birth of Australia, and the people that came and settled here, the connection with England, and the connection with the stories within a biblical sense. It's also about a soul journey of a nation, because I truly believe that biblical stories are put there to help us evolve, to help our souls evolve, to look at what's happened in the past, reflect on what's happening in the present, so that we can make changes accordingly to our future. So I don't know how many tarot cards I'm going to pull out, but these were the two that actually came out in the pre-shuffle, and they're just beautiful. I've just done a reading on a double-edged sword. So we've got two swords here. This is the Two of Swords. This is the Moon in Libra. It's about balance. The evolution of our soul is about balance, finding balance in a situation that we are in, not taking or not holding power over one person, holding too much power within. Because if you hold power over one person or another party or another people, you hit the sharp edge of the double-edged sword. Now, as I said to you, my dog was out in the garden. He was barking. He was probably standing about this far away from this lizard. And I know him. He wouldn't have attacked it, because if he was going to, he would have done it already. But he was standing his ground and he was saying, hey, this is my garden. You're not allowed in here. He was almost fixated on it, and so I brought him inside, and he's happy. He's just sitting on the couch. Actually, he's gone to sleep. A long battle, the Two of Swords, the Moon in Libra. And then we have the Seven of Pentacles. Now, this is perfect because the number 7 is relevant. So relevant in all the biblical stories, but it's also relevant in the birth of Australia as a nation with regard to the European settlers, specifically the British settlers. That 7 synchronicity I have found, and this reading will be within a series of readings that I'm calling the Wheel Within a Wheel, because this 7 number runs through so much of our history, of our Australian, of the white Australian history. And it aligns with what's currently going on in Israel, Israel's connection with Britain, Australia's connection with Britain, the story of Adam and Eve, the beginning of the Bible. So the Seven of Pentacles is about where you plant your seeds. And I'm so sorry about my belly. I've just had a big drink of water to try and stop it grumbling. I'm not hungry. There's just nothing in it at the moment. The Seven of Pentacles is my Jacob and Rachel card. The Seven of Pentacles talks about, in this particular deck, it talks about the mother-father story of Israel. Jacob in the Bible wrestled with God at the age of 77. He tried to steal his brother's inheritance. He wrestled with God at the age of 77. And then he turned and asked Rachel's father for her hand in marriage. There was trickery that went on, and he worked for 7 years, turned up at the wedding, and Rachel's father tricked him and veiled Rachel's sister, and he married Rachel's sister. Then he had to work another 7 years. So 77 in the Bible it talks about when God changed Jacob's name to Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel. But Jacob and Rachel are the mother and father of Israel. Israel turns 77. So from 1948 through until, it's the 8th of May today, through until the 14th of May. On the 14th of May, it turns 77. We talk about this 77, at 77, Jacob wrestled with God about what he had stolen. The number 7 in Hebrew is sword. It means sword, a double-edged sword. Ironically, the King of England turned 77 this year. Now, he visited Australia back in January. And it was, of course, England back in 1788 that settled Australia, claimed it for their own, even though the Aboriginal people had been living here for 63,000 years. So let me get an angel and see who is watching over. Number 22. Two twos. That 2 is Eve. 2 is also the number of patience. But in Genesis, the story of Eve happens, I think it's Genesis 2:22. Fortune, fame, and new ventures, new settlements, new horizons, new countries to conquer. Fortune, fame, and new ventures. That card aligns with the Three of Cups. The Three of Cups is a card of celebration, but the double-edged sword of that is that somebody's celebration is somebody else's sorrow. So I've got lots and lots of notes. As I said, I've been pulling through this energy for a very, very, very long time. What I am finding is that there are synchronicities between the stories in Genesis, 2 people in the Garden of Eden. Australia is the oldest living culture. The Australian Aborigines are the oldest living culture on the earth, and they were untouched until white men came. So they were effectively living in the Garden of Eden until they were sacrificed. So if you think about the Garden of Eden, they stole the apple from the tree. Well, in Australia's case, the country itself was stolen, taken over by somebody else. So it is literally the story of Adam and Eve, but on a grander scale. And when you think about what's happening, you know, if you go back in the Bible and you go, okay, well, you know, for example, the suggestion that Israel is the promised land, that story goes back 6,000 years. Well, the oldest story started with the Aboriginal people 63,000 years ago. That's the oldest paintings, the oldest Aboriginal paintings that have been found. 6 and a 3 is a 9. This year is the 999 portal. And 9s are the endings and beginnings. Let's have a look at this little angel here and see if we can get some more information. This angel rules over fortune, influences voyages. So I think Captain Cook. The discovery of Australia, which had already been here for a bloody long time before they got here. Discoveries and maritime expeditions, and protects against tempests and shipwrecks. Soul guardian for those born 7 a.m. to 7:20 a.m. Moral guardian for those born the 10th of April, the 21st of June, the 1st of September, the 12th of November, and the 23rd of January, and the physical guardian for those born the 3rd to the 7th of July. Now, on the 7th of July this year, 2025, Uranus goes into Gemini. The last time that happened was World War II, 1945, the 6th of August and the 9th of August, 1945, and that's when they dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which obviously then ended the war. But there's a connection here. There's a biblical connection between the story of Adam and Eve. There's a biblical connection here in terms of what is the Garden of Eden. For Australia, for the Aboriginal people, the Garden of Eden is literally country, their country, that they had preserved and protected for all of that time before white man came. In Israel, the promised land, the Garden of Eden. But in order to get it, they have to destroy an indigenous population that's living there, which is what's currently playing out on our TV screens. And there's also a connection between Jacob and Rachel and that story within the Bible about Jacob wrestling with God at the age of 77, because the seventh theme is coming through. Now, by the time Jacob married Rachel, he was 84. So it was a 14-year wrestle. And that will also come through in a reading that I'm going to do directly after this one. So let me give you some contextual background in regards to this number 7. So when Captain Cook came to Australia, he first docked in Warang, which is the Aboriginal word for Sydney Cove, Warang. I use gematria, which is a biblical tool that aligns letters of the alphabet with numbers, and it gives you an alphanumeric value for a word. So Warang is 1107 or 480. It means shall we begin? Also, the words answer and Alejandro align with that number. In Strong's Concordance, which is an index of all of the words listed in biblical text, Old and New Testament, to make known, to declare, or without. To make it known that this is now our land. To declare. Irrespective, we're going to celebrate the Three of Cups. We're going to celebrate, but you're going to be without. Now, the first contact occurred between the Eora people and the Europeans in January 1788. The Gadigal people, which were a clan of the Sydney region, and there were 7 clans in that Sydney region. So this is where the 7s start coming through. Eora in Gematria is 136, which means ring. This marriage that happened between these two people at that point of connection. But when you think about it, it's bad marriage, because one with their sword overpowers the other. 136 in Strong's Concordance is Adonai, which means God. Somebody acting like God over the other. Now, if you look at Aboriginal astrology, we have the 7 Sisters, which is essentially the Pleiades. It's a story of pursuit and escape, desire and magic, and the power of family bonds. Australia's country calling code, when you call Australia, it's 61. 061 is the number that you put first. 6 and a 1 is a 7. Captain James Cook put his flag on Possession Island, just off the coast of Sydney, and claimed it for England. Claimed the whole country of Australia for England. Now, the Darawal people were another tribe of people in that particular area. The coordinates of, if you put in Darawal people into Google Maps, the coordinates are 34 south, 151 east, 3 and a 4 is 7, and a 151 is 7. So we've got that 77 number again. Their totem, not their totem, their spiritual animal is a whale. Darawal in Gematria is 1015 and 408. In Strong's Concordance means house of fig. Now, the irony here is that the Darawal people were part of the first military ordered massacre of Aboriginal people, which happened to be the 7th massacre in Australia, but the first military ordered massacre. 16 people were killed mainly women and children. A 1 and a 6 equals 7. Darawal's gematria is 1015, which also adds up to a 7. The Darawal country itself, that area of land just south of Sydney, in a city called Wollongong. Wollongong's area code or postcode is 2500. That adds up to a 7. There is a suburb called Fig Tree within Wollongong, which was home to this beautiful ancestral fig tree. Now that suburb's postcode is 252577. Women would come, it had been there for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Think of the fig tree think of the tree in Avatar that they cut down. Women would come there to give birth. Women from all around would come there to give birth. Aboriginal women, right through until 1996 when it was cut down. There's also a Mount Nebo, the fig tree lookout in that same area. Now I'm going to give you some gematria on just some different things that I was picking up. Going to pop it here. Aborigines 293, 594 and 99. 293 is Robin Hood. What did he do? He stole from the rich to give to the poor. Edomites, Endocaste, Filipinos, Sacred Ibis 594. So this aligns with the word Aborigines. Jupiter, which is 777. Rapture, Nero Caesar, Ascension, Evergreen, Firmament, New Moon, Golden Dawn, The Bird is Freed, Poetry, Everton, Collateral, River Red, and The Curse. And then in Strong's Concordance, Brother of Pleasantness, 2 brothers fighting, 2 people, 2 entities fighting, a fishing net, a hook or a plumb line, acceptance, stagnant water, and the Adriatic Sea. First Nations people, that's who they were. The Aboriginal people, the Indigenous Australians, were the first people. They were here in the Garden of Eden. 615, 984, and 164. Raziel, torture, that's what happened. Azrael, Book of Numbers, the Seal of Solomon, and strangled to death. 984. Now I just pull through words that I'm intuitively drawn to. Harry Potter. Beautiful soul, called up to heaven, winner takes all, hierarchy of evil, the Alpha and Omega, the eternal light, sweet child of mine, the Star of Esther, silver spoon, the brightest light, and the wheel in the sky. 615 is a captive, bound prisoner. To kill outright, to destroy, to put to death, to kill or to slay, to injure the heart, or a captive. Australia, the Seal of Solomon, assault, and illegally. 612, warrior, slavery, world peace, auroras, first edition, God's army, art of war, sacred health, light codes, lion heart, holy war, and war zone. Like all of this war stuff. Thou shalt not steal. 502, gentle, a friend, a chieftain, learn to teach, to draw with, a vessel. Again, 612. Prisoner, banned, imprisonment, a response and answer. Country, 873, 696. 873. So that's what Aboriginal people call Australia, country. A deliverance, Strong's, wicked, bad. Boundary, divide, to separate. 696, nuclear war, global reset, the meaning of life, the angel of light, loyalty, angel and healing, persecuted. Ursa Major, 7 stars in that. 7 main stars, but 223 stars in total. But Ursa Major is that stairway to heaven, which is 77, and 223 in total stars in that constellation equals the stairway to heaven. Now, when you think about Ursa Major, it was one of the arms of the swastika, which was what was used in World War II as a symbol of the German army. And the result in that double-edged sword that was used there was how the people of Israel ended up back in the land of Israel. Ursa Major, Horus Eye, and the story begins. I'm hearing that song, The Story Never Ends, by Love. Love. love, L-A-U-V. Strong's Concordance, weight, spoils, and made of silver. Now, silver is the gate of man. We are going into, well, it's the gate of man at the moment because it's Archangel Michael's sword of truth, which is the Taurus gate. It's Oberon, which is the royal star of Persia that sits in celestially in the constellation of Taurus. It's ruled by Archangel Michael. It's the watcher of the east, the eye of the celestial bull, and it's about power, leadership, and integrity. How did you hold the sword? Now up here I've got Cataract Gorge, which is where that first massacre happened. That massacre that was the first military-led massacre. What they basically did is they ran these women and children. They were on horseback. These military people were on horseback and they ran these women and children up the side of the gorge and they had nowhere to go. So they literally flew to their deaths. The 7th massacre that was, Cataract Gorge, 438 or 714. To blossom or flower. Well, that's not what happened. But 714 in Strong's Concordance is fig tree, which goes back to that original story. And the fig tree prophecy in context to Jewish religion is about being given the keys to the Garden of Eden, returning to the land of Israel. Now, Australia is known as the lucky country. When you think about luck, you think about 777. The Garden of Eden, the longest surviving untouched culture. Now, Captain Cook was actually sailing up and down the outskirts of the eastern side of Australia. The eastern side, the watcher of the east, the silver key, is the eastern gate, the gate of man. But he was doing that from 1777. 777. It was during the last Pluto and Aquarius rotation. So 248 years ago, because we've just gone into a new Pluto and Aquarius rotation, which is 20 years. So in that 20 years, that destruction had happened. Something was sacrificed and it was the indigenous population. Now, if we look further into this soul journey that the country of Australia has actually been in, and the connection between this particular journey and other countries in the world, other countries that align with that number 77. So, of course, we're connected with England. And I couldn't work out, aside from I knew the underlying of the story of the Garden of Eden and obviously Adam and Eve, and I had put it contextually with what was happening in Australia over, however many thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. But 77, which is what Israel turns on May 14th, 77 in Hebrew is the word, now my pronunciation is the word Uz, O-Z. Now, Australia is the land of Oz, O-Z, green, the lucky country. So there's a connection between what happened in Germany, which then affected what happened to the Jewish people and their return to Israel, but a connection between Churchill, who essentially instigated the return of those people to Israel. We've got the swastika, which is the 4 sevens, so 4 sevens on the swastika, a connection between the swastika and the stairway to heaven, which is the number 77. The current King of England is 77. He's just done a tour of Australia. And then the other country, and if we're talking about a soul journey, the other country or countries that were affected by what happened in World War II, and that period in World War II was 1939 to 1945, which is a 7-year period, are the other countries that were affected. And there were many, but one of the major players in terms of battle lines drawn is the two halves of Korea. Now, the DPR, 4 letters. The DPRK is also 77 years old this year. But when I think about Korea, I think about the city of Seoul. So a soul journey that collectively as a group of nations, we are actually all part of, just in different aspects of, and in different timelines of. Obviously, that journey between World War II and the people of Israel, World War II and the people of Korea, is 77 years old. But the journey of the people of England and the people of Australia, in terms of the connection between black and white, for want of a better word, is 250 years old. And all of it aligns with sacrifice and the Garden of Eden and who took what and what, it all kind of plays out. So then I started looking at the connections between soul and Australia. And if we're looking at that 77-year mark in terms of this year, and then we hit 84 years, I live in Brisbane, which is on the eastern side of Australia. My city is surrounded by, on the coast of Brisbane, is Moreton Bay. Moreton Bay was named after the Moreton Bay fig, which is the indigenous fig tree of Australia. Again, that fig tree reference. And they are everywhere in my city. But if I look at soul to Ayers Rock now, or Uluru, which is Uluru is a symbol of red earth. Now, Adam is a symbol of red earth. If you look at the links between Adam and the letters and numbers within the Hebrew alphabet, Adam is red earth. First man, red earth. So I did soul to Ayers Rock is 7,000 kilometres. Again, that's 7 number. Soul to Brisbane is 7,700 kilometres. Ayers Rock to Brisbane is 2,222 kilometres. Well, 222 in the Bible is the story of Genesis and Eve. So we've got Adam in Ayers Rock, a connection to soul, and then a connection to Brisbane with this fig tree prophecy that aligns with the original birth story of white men in Australia and connects it to all the sevens that lie within the original arrival of the British. And remember, I said the current British king is 77, the original arrival of the British in Australia, and all the 7 connections within that. This is about a big soul journey as a collective of people. Yeah, Genesis 2:22. God created Eve. Now, if we're looking at Eve, we're looking in Hebrew at the word shava, because that original story of Adam and Eve was in Aramaic. But it's shava or hava, which is 713. And in Strong's Concordance, which is this index of words in the Bible, in biblical text, New and Old Testament, it aligns with the colour purple. 713 aligns with the colour purple. But if you put in the word Eve, E-V-E, which, as I said, is aligning with Brisbane, it's 710. In Gematria, it means First Lady. It also aligns with 710, 711, and 713. So it's almost like all words that mean the same. But in Strong's Concordance, it again means purple. And 711, 7 by 11 is 77. You might have been seeing, I've been seeing that everywhere. 711. 7 times 11 is 77. So we have this double-edged sword again. Jacob and Rachel, Adam and Eve. Genesis 2 talks about the Garden of Eden, and Genesis 2-4 talks about the creation of Adam and Eve. And there's something at play at the moment because the other parties that actually follow that creation story are Islam and Christianity. And there's a battle at the moment in Palestine between Israel and Palestine. Somebody wants to take the land and somebody else has been sacrificed, aligning with the showdown that was happening, the showdown at Big Sky. There might be something in that movie, aligning with the showdown that was happening in the garden between the lizard and my Labradoodle, but also a showdown that's happening currently in Australia between Aboriginal people and the rest of the population. We just had a big referendum as to whether it was called a voice, how to play out how Aboriginal people will have a voice in Parliament. And in fact, in 1948, which again is that number, that's 77. So 77 years ago, it wasn't until 77 years ago that Australian citizenship was available. Prior to that, we were all subjects of England. So again, that's 77 number. That's this year. And it wasn't until the 60s, I think, that Aboriginal people were allowed to vote. Just dreadful. Some of the things that have happened, you just kind of look back on it and you go, oh, but that's what you're meant to do. That's why it's all happening. So Brisbane's postcode is 4,000. Now that aligns with Pentecost. Lots and lots of things at play at the moment. And it's because we've got this big rotation of Uranus coming back into, and it's on an 84-year transit, of Uranus coming back into Gemini. Now, as I said, the last time that happened was 1945 in World War II. Big explosive events. Uranus is the planet of earthquakes. Big things happening in the collective. So Brisbane's postcode is 4,000. Pentecost, which is June 8 this year. And I think it aligns with, well, it's the Feast of Weeks also, but I don't know if the Feast of Weeks is first fruits, which is the fig. But it's green. Number 4,000 also aligns with the number 4, which is green, which is the 4th colour of the rainbow. So I'm just going to go through. I know this is very, very wordy reading. You can pause it, come back to it. Brisbane aligns with 229 and 420. 229 is Francis, as in Pope Francis. What's just happened? Clock at Mecca and sabbatical. Sabbatical is the number 7. 420, which is Yahweh. Also Adam and Eve, also proof, also Toto, and also fig tree. That's what Brisbane aligns with. If I look at Oz, or the Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz, 2100, aligns with the words 22, which is Eve. Time to wake up, my people. It also aligns with the number 858, the Great Dragon, the Trojan Horse. Well, there was a hidden army there. God's Chosen One, Jacob's Trouble, which is 77. Ground Zero, Prophet Elijah, October 7, hello. When did all the recent trouble between Israel and Palestine start? October 7. The Holy Line. The word soul itself, S-O-U-L, a soul journey that we are on, 360 or 402. 360 is the Garden of Eden, Rosario, the Angel of Death, Conception, and green means go. 402 is water, reset, and Miguel. Now soul, as in the city. 365, which is Adolf Hitler. 432, a doe, Hind. Now, Hind was the little girl that was shot 355 bullets from a tank went into that car. The sacrifice, 365, doe, Hind. And it also aligns with the number 613, which means banned imprisonment. Soul also aligns with 432, Goliath, Gog and Magog, and a real soldier. Meanjin, which is the Aboriginal word for Brisbane. 725, which is a 7 and a 7, because 2 and a 5 is a 7. Dragon Ball Z, Oyster, and Dorothy Gale. And 396 is Cain and Abel. And I forgot, the other ones that align with Brisbane is Noah and the Flood and End Time, Adam and Eve, the Flame, and Patience. And I've just got pages and pages of stuff. Again, soul, more stuff here, soul. Hidden Gematria Code, Criminal Minds, The Distance, and bully. Number 7 itself symbolizes the complete journey or cycle of the soul. The 7 steps that Dorothy took to reach the wizard. So if you think about the Yellow Brick Road was a soul journey. Completeness and transformation is also the number 7. The Yellow Brick Road is a spiritual journey. And 77, as in the number 77 in Gematria, is Yellowstone, Christmas in July, Purple Rain, and Saint Germain. Now let me just make sure I've got all of the information. I've got one more, and it's Ficus macrophylla, 981 and 1092. 981 is war. Hello. Cinderella movie, REM Losing My Religion, and The Light at the End of the Tunnel. 1092 is Hidden in Plain Sight, The Divine Triangle, The Book of Creation, Light of the World, Spiritual Army, and Darkness to Light. That is the Moreton Bay Fig. So I'm going to pull some cards. Let's see where we go. Clearly decide what you want and learning from hard lessons. So if you look at the story of Adam and Eve, they were booted out of the Garden of Eden. In actual fact, May 7th, which was yesterday, was the symbolic date. In the Garden of Eden, it is the date that they were booted out because it was the 17th day of the second month on the old biblical calendar. It was also the date that Noah was locked into the ark with the other 7 people. Again, that 7 number again. 8 of them in total on the ark. But it was the 17th day of the second month. It was also, yesterday was May 7th, which was the date that the popes were locked into the conclave to vote in the new pope. Clearly decide what you want. The decisions that you make, this double-edged sword that you have the ability to wield power, but you also have the ability to cause great pain to somebody else. The Four of Wands. Warang. That's where they came in to Sydney Cove. I think it's Warrane, but it's pronounced Warang, a sword. And what's just flown through my garden, I'm looking out into my garden, what's just flown through my garden is, you know those tiny little dandelions? And the wind's just blown and one has just kind of let off all its seeds. The power of the sword you hold, Warang. And I think it came through in the last reading because it had popped up in my feed, and it was talking about if you sit down to supper and you recognize that what's being served is poison, you have to step up. You have to hop up and walk away. But maybe you don't know it's poison. The Queen of Pentacles. I'm just hearing poetic justice. The Queen of Pentacles. The Queen of Pentacles is Uranus in Virgo. That Uranus, it's a spiritual awakening. This is all meant to wake us up. And it certainly has, because I know that Australia Day this year, after people watching what's going on in Gaza and actually kind of going, yeah, you know what? Let's have a little look back into the history, because Australian history in terms of what was done to the Indigenous population is not taught in school. You have to go looking for it. The Three of Pentacles. What's been built? The foundations of what's been built in our soul are being torn down because the information that's been given to us, that's been fed to us, that everything was okay and we are all here because we're all part of one big community, is all well and good. But you have to look at the underlying of how we all got here and who gave up what for us to have what we have. Because the word invisible is coming to me. For many of the Indigenous Australians, they feel invisible. The Three of Pentacles, what was built? And the Ace of Cups, that's the message from the man upstairs. A spiritual journey that we are on. And the outcome, let's have a look. I want to say here that even in my own actions in the past, that's the moon in Cancer, it's a disappointment. For me, it's a disappointment that I didn't recognize, even though not intentional, I didn't recognize my part in how I held the sword, how I held my power, and how it actually affected somebody else. The Two of Pentacles. It's a weighing up. It's this soul awakening. And as I was saying to you before, you know, so many people this year kind of just were like, yeah, I don't know if I can celebrate Australia Day, as things start to come through about what was happening, you know, what's happened in the past. And it's because even though our story is older than the story of what's currently going on and has been going on for the past 77 years in Israel and Palestine, our story is older, even though the story only started 250 years ago. Our story is older in terms of how long the Indigenous Australians have been here, because we are looking at what's going on. We then have an opportunity to reflect back on history. And that, to me, that's what the Bible is about, in terms of, you can then equate it to some sort of biblical text, because obviously Israel equates their journey to the promised land as something that was biblically promised to them. And even what's going on currently, the story of Adam and Eve. So the Sistine Chapel itself, where all the priests are, all the cardinals are, the cardinal of truth that was coming through, where all the cardinals are who are voting in the new pope, the walls of the Sistine Chapel, painted back in a Pluto and Aquarius transit 500 years ago, when Henry VIII chopped off the heads of all his wives. Again, this sword and how you hold it. Michelangelo painted the story of Genesis and the Last Judgment on the walls of the Sistine Chapel, which is where the current popes or the current cardinals are locked in, voting on the new pope. It's like all of these stories intertwined. Crazy, 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 crazy. Okay, let's have a look at this. It's the foundations. Fours are foundational. Where are you building your foundations? That is Neptune in Pisces, the King of Cups. Where are you building your foundations? Now that you've gone a bit more in depth into what's actually happening and how it has played out in history, and where you want it to move forward to, because the Five of Swords is Venus in Aquarius. Now, this 20-year transit of Pluto in Aquarius is about, Pluto is revolution. It's this 777 number. It's revolutionary change. But for the next couple of months, through until October, Pluto is retrograde in Aquarius, and it is a real big, okay, I want to move forward, but I need to make sure that what I'm taking with me when I move forward is the right tools in order to build what I want. Three of Pentacles in the soul, in order to build what I want, but not in a manner that affects somebody else. Now, this was coming through prior to the reading. I was getting the words emu parade. So an emu parade in Australia is where they send all the kids out in the schoolyard and they line them all up. So just say there's like a big area where they eat at lunchtime, and then kind of a big grassed area. So a covered area, which there always is in Australia, a covered area where they sit to eat their lunch, and then a big grassed area where they go and play. Well, at the end of lunchtime, it's normally covered in paper and food scraps and all that sort of stuff. And even though kids put their lunch in the bin, and you know, when they're finished with their wrappers and stuff like that, stuff still gets everywhere because they're kids, right? And so we used to have this thing called an emu parade, and it would be where they literally lined every single kid up along the rectangle of the play area. And so you'd have this wall of kids in one big line, and you'd do an emu parade where you'd all walk side by side, and essentially you had to pick up anything off the ground, any rubbish, any food scraps, any wrappers of something on the ground until you got to the other side. And it was a really, really great tool for the teachers to use, where all the rubbish got picked up. Now, I've got kids with, well, not anymore, but I had kids with anaphylaxis, so severe allergies. And so if they were sent out on an emu parade and they were to pick something up, it could literally mean life or death for them. So it's about the movement forward, so the movement forward in the emu parade, but making sure that you're not collecting anything with you, or collecting anything that you're taking forward with you that can be of any harm. This double-edged sword. The Queen of Pentacles, which is Uranus in Virgo. What tools? Three of Cups. What tools are you taking with you? What tools are in your toolbox that you are taking with you? Temperance. You need to be taking balance with you. This is harmony. These fish, round, 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 round. But if one is pulling one way, one has got more power, one has got more control, it's not harmony, it's not balance. It's somebody, the Three of Cups is celebration. It's somebody celebrating on the back of somebody else's pain. The Three of Pentacles. 3, 3, 3, 3. We've got 2, 2. And this is a 3, and this is a 3. The Queen of Wands. the Strength card. Okay, so in this particular deck, she, which is this lady here, she's bound. She's bound by the environment that she's in. She's bound by where she lives, who she lives with, and the sword that is being held by somebody that would keep her, that would sacrifice her, essentially. That was the Eight of Cups that I knocked. Something that would sacrifice her. She wants, this is a love deck, she wants to be with somebody that she wants to be with, but she can't because she's bound, literally held at ransom by her father who won't allow her. But she goes through this soul awakening and works out that if she walks away from the things that don't serve her, if she doesn't pick up the things on the emu parade which are potentially going to harm her, she can make her way on her journey, build her future, which is this, the Three of Pentacles, based on the lessons, the Strength card. And in doing that, God gives her freedom. So it's a bit like this this 7-7, this stairway to heaven, this wrestle that she has with God. And once she comes to a understanding that she can move forward without hurting anybody, by stepping into her power, but that the power that she holds in God's eyes is only powerful and won't be judged. If she doesn't wield that power over somebody else, then that's when God steps in. Now, in that particular deck, God steps in and turns them into a pair of birds so that they can fly away to their freedom. So God removes the devil energy in their life, removes the obstruction, but only if you've learnt your lesson. The Ace of Cups, the spiritual lesson. Spiritual lesson, that's the Hermit card. The spiritual awakening. Look, we've got the Ace of Cups on the Ace of Cups. You get the freedom to do what you want when you realize that in order to get this beautiful new beginning, you have to align your strength. You have to align your sword. This number 7 is a sword. You have to align the sword in a manner where you can use it to protect yourself, but you can't use it to harm somebody else. And I even think of, Israel and Palestine, these two countries. Something popped up in my feed the other day about, it was a man in front of a synagogue in Iran. And he was basically saying, he said, look, there's no guards, there's no nothing. He said, because in Iran, the Christians and the Jews and the Muslims all live in harmony because they all respect each other. There's an opportunity here in Israel, Palestine, in North and South Korea, in Australia, for there to be harmony. But what's happened is one party has been holding their sword to hold the other party down. I just heard it's a softening. There's going to be a softening. And it's coming into alignment because this 77, which is Jacob's trouble, and then 84, which is the end of that. 84 is the mirror of 1948 when all of these 77s happened. 84 is 2032, which is when the Olympics are in Brisbane, which is why I think all of this stuff is aligning within Australia and within Brisbane itself in terms of all of these synchronicities that I've been picking up on. Brisbane, the phone code for Brisbane is 07. So again, that's 7. But there's all this argy-bargy going on at the moment in terms of where they're going to build the stadium. And they want to build it over the top of where it's a site of Aboriginal significance. Very interesting. But it's that 84 years. The Six of Wands, victory after a long battle. And the Two of Pentacles, 2, 2, 2. Triple 2, 2 3s. Actually, no. Triple 2, 2, 2, 2. No, here we go. We've got 4 2s. Actually, we've got a 22 up here, even though that's the 3 of cups. 2, 2. We've got a 2 there. We've got a 2 here and a 2 here. So 3 2s, and then we've got, this is the 3 of cups, the 3 of cups, the 3 of cups, and the 3 of pentacles. 3 3s, 2s of patience, 3s of creativity, and then we've got 2 4s. And the Tower on the bottom. It's a big change coming. A big, 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 big change. Let's get a moon. Full moon eclipse wrapping up the mystery. It's all coming out. I don't want one of those. I just want some of these, I think. Let's get some Scrabble tiles. Let's see what else wants to come out. Apologies, I normally say that it makes a little bit of noise, but I just instinctively shook it. We've got an M and a 3, an L and a 1, a T and a 1, an I and a 1. 'Tis the season. An S and a 1, a D and a 2, an E and a 1, a V and a 4, and a Y and a 4. I'm going to get 3 final cards. Hopefully my battery hasn't run out. When that flew out, I was like, what are you battling? What are you battling? What are you battling that you're walking away from? Divinely guided. This is New Horizons. 5 of Cups is disappointment in connections that you have been in that have caused pain by somebody that's wielding the sword to... Where do we have that? I'm sure one of the words was bully. What have we got on the bottom? 8 of Swords, being trapped. Let me find that because that's really important. Yeah. Soul, Criminal Minds, The Distance, bully, bully. Somebody, somebody wielding a sword. Somebody wielding a sword. Interesting. Okay, that's where I'm going to leave it. Thank you for joining me for this bit of a research reading. I'm actually glad. It's been one of those ones where I needed to get that information out. It's almost like I needed to... Oh, and those beautiful seeds. Is it a dandelion flower? Just blow it again. It's like a release. A softening. A softening. It's almost like a literal... It's a birth. It's like we've been in labor for this rebirth, this spiritual rebirth. And when you think about a woman that goes into labor, active labor starts when her cervix softens, a softening. That's where I'm going to leave it. Thank you for joining me. If this reading resonated with you, please give it a like. If you are called to, you can subscribe. Any of the decks that I use are, as I said, my own designs. So you are most welcome to purchase any of those. They can be found in the description box. I am now going to do the next reading, which is pulling through the energy of the Olympics and the symbolism around what's currently playing out in the collective, and some of these messages, additional messages that I've been getting through. Thanks again, and I will see you in another reading.